Hi, everybody. Welcome to Horsepower Heritage. I'm Maurice Merrick, and greetings to all of you listening from places like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Huntington, New York, Montclair, New Jersey, Glen Carbon, Illinois, Sahuarita, Arizona. Don't forget to follow the podcast and leave me 5 stars and a quick review. And I've got to tell you, before we get started, the response to last week's episode was pretty amazing. So many of you contacted me to say how moved and inspired you were by the Valkyrie racing story and the efforts of Renee and Christina Brinkerhoff to fight child trafficking. And one guy in particular that it really hit home with, Wade Devers, who is an art director and a fantastic graphic artist who does a lot of terrific automotive art. And Wade's here with me right now. How you doing, Wade?
I'm doing great, Maurice. How are you doing?
Great. Now, you had a fantastic idea that we want to share with people today. Something extra for them if they donate to Valkyrie Racing. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, I think it all started with, I saw images of that car, that 356 with the tracks on it. And I think everyone was captivated by this thing right away. So I was already aware of the car, but I was not aware of why that car existed. I didn't read a lot about it. I just seen it. And at some point I was like, I've got to draw this thing. It just has to be drawn. It's too cool. It's too interesting. And then I'm a fan of your podcast anyway. I listen to all of them. And when I listened to it, I was just so taken by the whole story. She got into racing in her 50s. And so I think that was already kind of interesting. But then as the story developed and she sort of walked the audience through how she got to where she was, and then the moment that she realized that she could translate all of that or parlay that into something to affect change somewhere, I think that's what really kind of struck me was these things are all fun to do. And if you have the resources, they're great. But to use that in a way that can affect some change for somebody, I thought was really moving. And I just kept thinking about one thing that she said, and that was that how do you take something little and turn it into something big? I think she said something very similar to that. And I thought, you know what? I can take what I do and make that part of what she does. So I drew the car. I was going to draw the car anyway. But then I reached out to you and I said, hey, I've got an idea. Could we use this piece of art somehow and maybe create some extra contributions to the effort? So really, that's kind of how it came about.
So here's our idea, guys. Wade has offered to provide a limited edition of 10 digital files of his artwork of the Valkyrie Racing 356 on its tracks and skis. Once you make your donation, you're going to be entered to win one of 10 unique digital files of Wade's artwork of the car. Wade, explain how they're unique.
So the artwork exists in one set of colors. And what I'm going to do is customize it to give 10 different variations on that theme. So one person might get the car with a light blue background. Someone else might get the car with a white background. But what's interesting about it, I think, for people is you get your own version of it. And it's like a one of one. This gives the people who win it the flexibility to do what they want with it. If you want to make a giant poster out of it, have at it. If you want to make a small piece of framed artwork for yourself and an art print, like a high quality art print, you can do that too. So really, once you have the file, your digital file, you're the only one that has that particular version of it. And you can do what you like with it.
All right. So let me explain how this is going to work. Go to valkyrieracing.com/donate356. Make your tax deductible donation. And once that's complete, you're going to receive a confirmation email. Now, to enter to win Wade's artwork, go to horsepowerheritage.com. Click on the contact button there. Send me your name and the reference number from your donation. We'll be drawing the winners on Monday, December 20th. Every entry has an equal chance of winning. This will be a random drawing. There will be 10 winners, and each winner will receive a unique high-resolution piece of digital artwork from Wade Devers. Now, I'll be putting links and instructions in the show notes, so if you missed any of this, no big deal. It's all there for you. And that's it.
I think it's important for me, and I think it's important for a lot of people to be able to do what they can that's within their means. The artwork is something that I can do, something that I can give. And I think the idea that no act is too small is really what this is all about. You can't fix the problem, but you can fix the problem for somebody.
I totally agree with you. All right. Well, is there anything else we need to say?
I think the only thing that we need to say is keep listening.
Thank you, my friend. I'm glad you're out there and really appreciate you getting involved.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. When we come back, I'll tell you all about this week's episode. So don't go away. This episode of Horsepower Heritage is sponsored by Model Citizen Diecast. Maybe you can't afford that Shelby 289 Cobra or that Porsche 356 Speedster, but having a scale model on the shelf is easy with Model Citizen Diecast. They stock collector-grade scale models in 1/43rd scale, 1/18th scale, and even the massive 1/8th scale masterpieces from the Amalgam Collection. And if you use the promo code HERITAGE at checkout, they'll give you 10% off your order. Limitations apply. Just visit modelcitizendiecast.com and check out their great selection. From race cars to classic cars and everything in between. Model Citizen Diecast, because your inner child still wants to play with cars. All right, well, today my guest is Johans Lamic. Johan is a Porsche enthusiast and a man of many talents, as you're about to hear, and he's the creator of the Whaletail Project. Now, I don't think there's a more recognizable aero component than the famous Porsche 930 Turbo Whaletail spoiler. It was outrageous to see it on a road car in 1975, and there have been plenty of imitators ever since. Johan's taking genuine Porsche Whaletails and transforming them into sculptural pieces, painted in iconic racing liveries like Martini and Golf, and he added a genius visual trick, which is that they appear to be dripping wet paint from the bottom edge. So just imagine a Whaletail seemingly floating in midair. And if you haven't seen this yet, you've got to check it out at thewhaletailproject.com. You know, automotive art is one of my favorite things, and I think you'll enjoy hearing the story of how this all came together. So without further ado, here's my interview with Johans Lamic, right here on Horsepower Heritage. Let's hit it. Johan, thanks for joining me today. I want to start by saying that your CV is very impressive. Born in Paris, raised in the Caribbean, you played professional basketball in Europe for 10 years? And then at the time you were getting your law degree, you went into marketing. You were very successful in the marketing world. And then I guess you got bored with that and you decided, I want to go fly. So you learned how to fly and now you're an airline pilot. And on top of it all, a really talented artist, it turns out.
Apparently.
All right. So now I feel like a total underachiever.
No, that was a coincidence. Some people, I did a few things in my life, and I'm just having fun. And as long as you're happy, and that's the most important thing. I've been grateful to have many opportunities to meet incredible people, inspiring people, and I'm just having fun.
Well, in addition to all these accomplishments and your art, I would love to talk about your personal experience with Porsche and also flying. I'm fascinated by aviation. I always have been. Why don't we start with your aviation career? What got you interested and how did that progress?
The first time that I can remember, the first picture of an airplane is I saw the Concorde in the Caribbean, in the island of Guadeloupe. My dad back in the days was working at the airport. He was working at the customs. And one day he picked me up from the school and here we go. We're driving that. I can still remember the car. He was driving a 4L, the 4TL from Renault. And we're driving on the apron and then the Concorde. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm like 5, 6 or something like that, not more than that. And I can see that thing. It's just like fascinating. It's one of these incredible memories. And that was my first contact with aviation. I saw the Concorde. It's a shock. It's not really a shock, but I mean, it's really strong imprint on me. And then I studied the PPL a little bit later on during my career because, of course, I was busy with playing basketball, studying a lot, traveling a lot, so I had no time to do a PPL. But when I was working for the marketing company, I had a bit of time, a little bit more money, so I studied the PPL. And after a few lessons, the instructor was like, "What are you doing here? Yeah, you shouldn't be here. You should be a commercial pilot." I'm like, "Hey, come on. It's not possible, right? We have to be realistic." He said, I'm dead serious. You should be flying a commercial." I'm like, "Okay, let me try to pass the entry test for the school." And then, surprisingly, I'm passing. I'm calling my dad and I'm like, "Dad, I have a bad news and a good. I have a bad news and a bad and a good news. Which one do you want first?
Well, obviously you showed natural aptitude and ability. And did you feel at home in the cockpit from the first moment?
You know what? The first time that I flew, actually, I threw up because I used to fly on the simulator, and you fly with the instruments. You don't look outside, right? So you had my senses were a little bit lost. But my first time flying a 737 for real, with passengers, yeah, I'm pretty sure that there is a hole on the runway in Stansted because the landing was quite firm, let's say. But no, it was a lot of fun, and I had the privilege to fly in many, many different places, have a lot of experience. So now it's really, really a lot of fun. I mean, I like to fly manual. I'm flying 737. I flew all of them, the classics. It's something very, very special. And yeah, I like the flying what we call raw data, which means like without all the automations. We do that when the weather is nice, not too much traffic, and you flying with your co-pilot. It's like, hey, keep an eye on me because I'm going to fly manual. We're flying together. Have a look at what I'm doing, and here we go. You go like back in the days. You look outside, and you do a smooth approach, and that's it.
Stick and rudder.
That's it. Like back in the day.
Well, let's get into the Whaletail Project. So the pandemic hits, air travel stops. Suddenly, you have a lot of time on your hands. The wheels begin turning in your head. Yeah,
correct. Well, it started, the Whaletail Project story started before the pandemic, the car that I'm currently driving, the 3.2. When I bought the car, it was a car who was loved. I bought it in Sarasota. It took me quite a while to find it because I wanted a 3.2. It was my dream car. I wanted a 3.2 because it was the last of the classic 911. I didn't want to have a car with any ABS, no power steering. No, I wanted something very analog.
Once again, stick and rudder, right?
Correct. And I wanted a Targa as well because for me, it's the best compromise between a convertible and a coupe. And I found that car in Sarasota. The reason why I bought it is because the car was deeply loved. I had a huge documentation about history record, about maintenance. And while reading the paperwork, I mean, the guy was even like, cutting, when he was changing the Targa roof, he cut a piece of the roof, put it on a paper and said, I changed the roof on that day. Even the bulb, I still have a bulb. He changed the bulb. And he was like, writing these funny notes. So the car was really, really loved. When I bought it, it was not perfect. It needed a restoration. But the previous owner really, really take good care of the car. So that's the reason why I bought it. The car got shipped to Europe. And in the workshop, when I arrived there, the car was totally disassembled. And I felt kind of bad, which is not a good feeling when you give yourself a gift because, the car was just the chassis. And because the car went through a bare metal painting, and I'm like, I'm a very, very bad person. The guy loved his car so much, and kept everything, all the records, and you just delete everything, and it basically erased 40 years of history. So I decided to keep only one thing from the car because the car was backdated. So the bumpers, you change the bumpers, you convert it to a long hood, and my car had a Whaletail. So I was initially thinking about the hood, and it's kind of common. I've already seen that somewhere. And then the bumpers, I really like them. They are iconic, right? It's very, very 80s,
Yes.
But I did not know what to do with them. I really like them. And then I saw the Whaletail. I'm like, Whaletail, that's super cool. That's an iconic object. It's really, I really like the way that it looked. So I decided to keep the Whaletail, and I called the workshop like a few days later. Ship me my Whaletail, please.
Okay, so yes, so it's an impact bumper car, but you wanted that classic long hood appearance.
Correct.
You live in the Balearic Islands, correct?
Yes, sir. Palma de Mallorca, to be precise. So the Balearic Island consists in 3 islands. You have Palma de Mallorca, Ibiza, and Menorca.
And these are small islands, so there's not a lot of places to drive, but I'll bet the roads that you do have are wonderful.
I don't know if you saw the video that we did. We were grateful enough to have these amazing photographers from Barcelona. and they did a video, and I mean, you should see the roads. Literally a dream, especially if you go to the Tramontana. You have amazing roads along the coastlines and all these turns. So you have the mountain on the right and the sea on the left. I mean, it's just beautiful. We've been driving in a place called Sa Calobra, and yeah, it's an iconic, very, very well-known road, one of the best roads in Spain, and it's an incredible place.
I did catch the video and it's great. Yeah, it's fantastic. Everybody can check that out on your Instagram, right? Which is the Whaletail Project.
Correct. The whaletailproject.com on my website, or on the Instagram, the Whaletail Project. The video was shot by Paul and Ott. They're like amazing videographers. They're quite young, but a great future. And I'm very, very grateful to have the opportunity to work with them. They did a great job.
Yeah. You know what? I'll put links in the show notes to all of this so people can check it out.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. You gotta share the love.
And the car was a 40th birthday present to yourself, right?
Yeah, I wanted to have something special. I already had like quite a few cars, okay, but I wanted to have something special. The idea was how would you design your own car, right? What would be your dream car? So yeah, I went full on. It's just like, if I had to drive one car for the rest of my life, it would be my car. It would be a 3.2 Carrera, because I like the lines. My car has the little, the little hip at the back. It's not a narrow body. It's like a little hip. And yeah, the 3.2, because it's the last of the classic engines. After 1989, we go to the 964. And the 964 had a hydraulic suspension, ABS, and all these tools, which are, of course, much, much better, a lot more comfortable. But once again, I wanted to stick to the analog part and go old school, baby.
Old school, baby. So you get your car, you restore your car, and that's kind of the genesis, the seed that's planted in your mind about the Whaletail, right?
When I received the Whaletail at my house, I have quite high ceilings, and I wanted to have the spoiler on my wall as a memory to the love that the previous owner gave to his car, right? With the car kit from that. And then God's rectangle on the wall, kind of boring to my taste. I thought that something was missing, so I decided to paint it into a race color because it was fun. So most iconic race color, it was either Golf, Martini, or something like that. But still, there was something missing. The more I looked at the piece, the more I realized that the side of the spoiler looked like a wing of an airplane. It reminded me like when I was in flight school, a Whaletail, a spoiler deflects air. Air is a fluid, like an airplane. So it works the same, right? The particle of air that goes below goes faster than the one that goes above, creates a depression. The depression creates suction. For an airplane, it's lift. For a car, it's downforce, right? So my idea, after a few weeks, I tend to be quite obsessive with things. When I have an idea, it's like, and I wanted to give fluidity to the piece. There was a few ideas that I had, but the drop came up naturally, kind of, once again, because there is a story behind the drops. I was in Gatwick, holding point runway 26, and I'm watching that beautiful 747 landing coming from most probably the Caribbean, and you see these beautiful drag vortices, and I was like, the spoiler should look like that.
Yes.
It should look like it's moving, and the way that they look right now, that's my way of materializing speed and fluidity, because of course, if you have more downforce, you're going to go faster in a corner, and because you direct the fluid, which is air. So that's the big picture.
So when you first mounted the Whaletail on the wall, it looked too static for your taste.
Correct.
You wanted to impart motion.
Correct.
I think you've succeeded. They are so dynamic. They really, that's a good word for it. It's dynamic. If you can imagine the Whaletail on the wall unaltered, your eye just kind of goes to the center of it, right?
Yeah.
You're not looking around, but with your sculptural pieces, your eye is moving all over the piece, the curves, the forms, and also the fact that the paint seems to be dripping and that the whole piece looks wet.
Yeah, I mean, that was the idea. The piece should look organic and everything should flow And the addition of all these racing stripes make the other trick, because, even for someone who is not familiar with all the Porsche history, it's going to say, oh, that's a Martini stripe. That's how the piece should be interactive.
You start with a genuine Porsche Whaletail, and then you transform it into a sculptural piece. I wonder if we could get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of doing this. I mean, did you just call Porsche up and say, I would like to place an order for 99 Whaletails?
I wish. I'm using exclusively used Whaletails. First of all, Porsche doesn't produce them anymore, so you cannot buy them new. The initial name of the Whaletail Project was actually Save the Whales. I wanted to call it Save the Whales. I'm saving the whales. Like my car, each Whaletail that I'm building has a history. Okay, it was sitting on the back of a car for 30, 40 years, got some chips, some scratches, some happy owners were doing donuts. And I'm restoring them, disassembling everything, keeping everything as original as possible. So I'm even using the same screws. So I'm putting them in a solution to remove all the rust, because of course they have rust, they have leaves, dust and everything. So I'm cleaning up everything, but I'm trying to keep as many original elements as possible.
So you're not a trained artist, but you do know about cars, and you're obviously a meticulous guy. And what you decided to do was apply automotive techniques to the art.
Correct. And it's all about craftsmanship. That was the initial. So every time that I create a Whaletail, I'm thinking about all these guys, like back in the days, when they were building my car, there was no machines, and they were like
by hand,
hammering it. Yeah, everything is done by hand. There is very, very little machine involved in the creation of the Whaletail project, because of course, when I'm grinding these drops, the space between each drops is too small, so you cannot use a machine. The back of the Whaletail, of course, normally it's empty. It sits either on the intercooler of the 930 turbo, or literally there's an empty space, and that thing is created as well, perfectly flush, with a beautiful angle, and with the fiberglass exactly the same material as the Whaletail. So I'm using automotive techniques and materials to create the Whaletails.
The most fascinating thing to me is the dripping paint effect. How did you achieve that? That had to have been quite a bit of trial and error.
A lot of errors.
Well,
mostly errors.
I'm sure you tried multiple techniques, but you've achieved it really nicely. How did you do that?
I have a little bit of an obsessive personality. So I was dreaming about drops. I tried for months. I wasted tons of epoxy. I even used the candle wax to see how it was dripping, to try to reproduce it. The way that I'm doing it is quite simple. I'm using a 3D printer to have the general shape of the drops. Then I'm adding epoxy, like fiberglass, to mount them together. And the reason why they look so natural, so drippy, and so organic is the bondo. That's the secret is the bondo. There is a lot of bondo and a lot of grinding. And I'm trying to direct the light a little bit. That's what I'm trying to do on the new pieces. You direct the light a little bit, so it's really, really looks like organic, and it doesn't look like if the two pieces are separated. I'm using maybe 5 or 6 different sandpapers before even the spoilers goes to the paint booth for a filler, etc. The spoiler should be perfectly smooth before going to the paint booth. And then, of course, if you put a lot of clear coat, it's going to help. But there's a lot of handwork and grinding. Grinding is the secret.
Grinding in more ways than one. Like, you're just working hard.
Yes, sir.
And it's more than just the Whaletail and the paint and the illusion of the dripping. Every aspect of the sculpture is inspired by Porsche design elements. So that carries through to the mounting and to the base of the piece.
Correct. There is a roll cage inside. It's an invisible detail. No one will never ever see it, but there is a real roll cage. I'm using master bender as well. I don't go somewhere to bend the tubes. I go to a master bender. The guy has been bending tubes for years. He's using MS-DOS to control the machine. It's just
Wow.
ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. There is a crazy anecdote as well. The first Whaletail that I built in the US, we went to a place in LA, and the machine that bent the tubes was from the Second World War. We went in a shipyard and huge hydraulic machine. And so once again, it's history, it's craftsmanship. That's something special, right? So these are like these small things that shows that the love for the things that were well done with fashion. So so we have the roll cage. We have as well the thickness of the tubes is very, very specific as well. It's 32 millimeters. I'm using, if you go to the FIA website, it's the size of a roll cage if your car weighs between 1,000 and 1,500 pounds. Even the thickness as well is specific. No one will never ever cut the tubes, but the head of the tubes as well, it's a solid piece of metal, which is shaped in a specific way, because when you put the spoiler in, it's supposed to make the sound like you close your Porsche car, right? It makes a specific sound. Doesn't sound like that yet, but that was the idea.
Well, you said earlier you were obsessive, and I think that proves it.
A little bit. I'm trying to do the things properly. Everything should be coherent, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
People are buying these pieces, and I want them to be happy and to have something which makes sense. For example, the plate, we have a beautiful plate with the number. So the Whaletail Project Martini edition number 9 out of 11, for example. And the size and the lettering of the plate is similar to the plates that you have in your engine bay. If you have a classic 911, for example, it's exactly the same thing. You could literally take the plate and put it in the engine bay of your car. We use, of course, natural stones for the base, Tasso marble, which is the whitest marble that you can find. It's not common, but it's very white, and it has these small sparkles which are mimicking the Oryx white that I use. Of course, another special Porsche color. That color was used by Porsche only from 2013 to 2015. It's a very, very special color. It's between a matte, a pearl, and if you look at the base, the very beautiful white marble base and the color on the spoiler should look pretty much the same. It's very, very unique.
Well, all those little details and all those considerations that you've put into the piece make it so much more interesting. And even though you say the roll cage isn't visible, you know it's there. And whoever is lucky enough to own one of your pieces is going to know it's there. Really cool. And you're doing 9 different Whaletail series. And in each series, it's going to be limited to 11 pieces.
Correct.
Okay. And so you're doing a series of martini tails, Gulf tails, the orange and powder blue. To be specific, zenith blue and tangerine.
Yes, especially the tangerine, the orange is very, very specific. We wanted it to be we call it yummy, very deep. And to create that orange, actually, it's not an orange. It's a layer of 3 different colors. And that's what gives the trick. So you have a beige background, then a mustard color, and at the end comes the orange, and that's what gives that beautiful tangerine color. And it's really, really flashy, really deep, and with a lot of clear coat. That the spoiler is amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then you're doing the pink pig. You're doing the Peter Gregg Brumos with the beautiful red, white, and blue.
Past and present. The front has the old liveries, and the back has the 2016 livery as well. Really, really cool piece. I really like it.
You've also done a series of the Vaillant, the Kramer Porsche racing.
Yeah, in collaboration with the team. We're working with them. We had the approval, and we even did a shooting with a real car.
Wow.
Yeah, unique moment. Really, really very, very special.
And then you've also teamed up with West Coast Customs out here in California to do a pretty wild series.
Yeah, I mean, the West Coast Customs are unique pieces. Of course, all the pieces that I'm doing are unique because they are handmade and they have a number. So they are all unique. But the West Coast Customs pieces, they were created for the Monterey Car Week. And we did 3 unique spoilers with the wild West Coast Custom style. And they came with a 27 RS restored as well. And God has been very, very good with me this year. So I decided to give all the proceeds of the sale of these spoilers to the Monarch Global Foundation for helping children with cystic fibrosis, because with all the things in the world, I've been very, very grateful to meet incredible people and being quite successful. So it was time for me to give back. So that's what we did. And what a great stage and what a great opportunity given to me by West Coast Customs to be able to do these spoilers.
By the way, you know about the BMW art cars, right?
Yes, of course.
Of course you do. I have a suggestion for you. I think you need to cap this off with a custom design of your own, a Johan signature.
Yeah, I should definitely do that. We have something special coming when you mention all these series. So it's going to be 9 series of 11 pieces. The new one is being released in New York and Miami. And yesterday we had another blessing. Another blessing. You're the first one to hear that. Okay, it's going to be a Rothmans.
Oh, yes.
But it's not finished. I mean, yes, it's a Rothmans. Yeah, but we just received an email from Jackie X and he's signing all of them. So.
Oh, score.
Yes, it's very, very special. Don't ask me for the number 1 and number 9. Already sold out in a few hours. Already sold in a few hours.
Nice.
Yeah, we're having the legendary Monsieur Jackie X. I mean, 6 times Le Mans winner, Formula One, Paris Dakar. I mean, you name it. I don't think if we need to introduce Jackie X. And he really liked the project, the idea, and he accepted to sign all the 11 pieces will be signed by his hand. So I'm eternally grateful and super excited about the opportunity to meet, first of all, the legend himself and have my pieces signed by him. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. So far, Johan, how many have you produced?
I've been very productive. We produced around 16 Whaletails, plus another 5 that we're traveling. We're not selling those because they're going for our next tour in the US, in the Hamptons, Atlanta, Miami, and we're ending up in Naples.
Wonderful. Let's also talk about your secret weapon. Her name is Susan Frania.
Oh, yeah. So Susan is the manager of the Whaletail Project. She's a friend of mine. She's the art person. I'm not.
Well, I couldn't let Susan go unrecognized because she's terrific. And
clearly, she's essential asset to the project. I mean, she's the one. Once again, the Whaletail Project is a passion-driven project, right? Of course, we're selling the pieces, but it's not all about selling. It's about sharing something very special, a passion that we have in common. Every time that I can, I'm delivering in person. So sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm going to come to the US in 2 months, 3 months, or I'm going to come to Belgium or Germany. But I mean, I'm trying to do that as much as possible. It worked pretty well. And Susan is organizing, trying to put everything together to exhibit, deliver to the client. And there is a lot of things happening in the background as well. So she's clearly the one running the show.
Well, Johan, it's been such a fun conversation with you. I really enjoyed spending time with you and just learning about the project. And your enthusiasm is infectious, and it encapsulates what's exciting about Porsche.
Yeah, real pleasure, Maurice, and thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. And I see you soon, maybe in LA.
Yes, absolutely. Let's do that.
All right. Awesome.
All right, my friend. That's all for this episode of Horsepower Heritage. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to follow the podcast. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave me 5 stars and a quick review. Believe me, it helps other people discover the show. If you want to throw a couple bucks in to support what I'm doing here, go to buymeacoffee.com/HP Heritage. Big thanks to all of you who've contributed over there. Read articles and watch videos over at horsepowerheritage.com. And until next time, I'm Maurice Merrick. Thanks for listening.